Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Trip of a Lifetime podcast with me, Celeste.
And me, Jasmine.
Today we have a very special guest.
Hello, I'm Loki. He, they pronouns.
So today we're discussing Father's Day. It was released on the 14th of May 2005, directed by Joe Ahern and written by Paul Cornell, who is probably better known in the Doctor Who fandom for writing Human Nature and Family of Blood in Series 3.
I found the episode very sad as a whole, and it was also heartwarming as well because it resolved some things with Rose and her father.
Yeah. What about you, Loki?
I get a sense of nostalgia from rewatching it because it was like one of the first main Doctor Who episodes I watched. And I forgot how sad it was. I could feel myself tearing up a bit like, oh, I forgot some of this stuff happened.
Yeah. I think the thing that stuck really for me before rewatching is I remember the fact that Jackie's story from the beginning changes at the end because of the events of the episode. That's the one thing that I remembered.
Yeah.
So there has been kind of what's been cited as a bit of a plot hole in the sense that the Reapers, they've only ever appeared in this one episode. And a lot of people seem to think that they should pop up every time there's a paradox. But the way that I've realised the Doctor phrases in this episode is that they take advantage of the fact that there's a paradox, not that they pop up every time that there is a paradox, which is something that's a distinction I didn't pick up on the last few times I've watched it. So I don't think it is a plot hole. I think it's just that the Reapers just suddenly decided to pounce upon that specific paradox that was there. Yeah. But also they couldn't exactly bring in the Reapers every single time there's a paradox because they'd be in every other episode in this new series.
On that point, something I found very interesting is the Doctor actually takes Rose to see her deceased father. Whereas in other episodes, I swear that he's a bit more, you're not doing this or you're not doing that because it'll cause a paradox.
Yeah. I think with any other companion, he wouldn't have risked that. But I think, again, it's going back to that point that I've been talking about the last 3 episodes now, is that there's that one moment in World War III where you can pinpoint the moment the Doctor falls in love with Rose. So at this point, the Doctor is in love with Rose, so he can't. We'll bring it up again later on in the episode, where so he's like, well, sure, as long as you don't cause trouble.
Yeah.
Because we've discussed in last podcast episode that the reason why he got rid of Adam so quickly is because Adam messed around with things in time that he shouldn't have done, and then gets kicked out because of it, because he uses time travel for his own advantage. Rose kind of does the same thing. I mean, she's not trying to make money. It's a slightly more noble reason, but it is still very selfish. But I think the reason, and if this had happened, say, straight after the end of the world, or straight after the Unquite Dead, I don't think the Doctor would have taken her anyway. I think he would have straight up gone, no way. But also, he definitely would have dropped her afterwards.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, because he's in love with her, he can't bring himself to leave her behind, no matter what she does.
And you could kind of tell because he was a lot more worried about how she was feeling rather than the paradox itself, or the chance that she might do something.
Yeah, because he literally looks out the window and spots the problem, and instead of saying something to Pete, he was literally directly next to him, and, Pete would have probably gone out there and died. That he just was, he tried desperately to try and find another way, and obviously they had to resort to the other option because he ends up getting killed, basically.
Yeah.
The Doctor gets killed. Like, that's not something that happens very often. Like, it obviously gets undone, but I guess at the time it would have been quite shocking because people would, expect him to probably regenerate and stuff. Yeah. Anything you've got, Jasmine?
I have loads.
Okay.
So back to the beginning of this episode, I said that in my notes I put that there's a parallel to Back to the Future, and you knew that this is going to come up because I'm obsessed with Back to the Future.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have to hold it like this, sorry. basically the parallel is where Rose jumps in front of the car to save her dad out of harm's way, similar to what Marty does with George, except Marty gets hit.
Yeah, I guess, except no one died
Mm.
for either of those things. Yeah, I guess there could be quite a few Back to the Future references throughout New Who, mainly because the way that they both use time travel is very similar, in the sense that whatever you do in the past affects the future. Whereas, MCU, it's, it doesn't affect the current timeline, it affects a different timeline instead.
And I guess as well, kind of with the Umbrella Academy's logic of time travel, it's also kind of similar.
Yeah, definitely.
I would like to continue on the back.
Carry on, sorry.
One more thing, I think. I just gotta quickly scan my notes before I say one more thing.
Sure.
Otherwise, no, never mind. I got two more things. I said that the music was very remnant of Back to the Future, where the Doctor opens the doors to see the infinite doors of the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And it sounds similar to when Marty's hand disappears at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance in the pinnacle of the movie.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it. I've seen Back to the Future twice. Like, I don't know it that well.
And then I had one more, which was "You Call Me Dad," which reminds me of Back to the Future when Marty accidentally calls George and recovers it. He calls him Daddy-o.
It's not just that though, because you've also got the bit where Marty goes on a date with his mum, and then you've got Pete who's trying to flirt with Rose, and she's like, "Don't go there. Do not go there."
If I was with a girl, no. You don't want to be with a girl like me.
Exactly. Then you've got like the tonics in the corner, and his get rich quick schemes. There we go. And that's something that gets built on in season 2. We're not going to give too many spoilers away, but that is a very big plot point in some of the episodes in a parallel universe.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, because that's how alternate universe Pete gets rich, is because his health drinks actually work.
I do love the Del Boy.
Yeah.
It made me so happy.
Another 80s reference.
Yep.
And then you also have, on the couple note of the Doctor in love with Rose, you also have a kind of like Rose not quite realising at this point in time yet, but it's building up, where she goes, "Why does everyone think we're a couple?" And then you can see it's part of her discovery of figuring out her feelings.
I think she is still trying to figure out her feelings, whereas like about 3 episodes back in Dalek, literally the Dalek in that episode is like to the Doctor, "Oh, you've got to open the doors, otherwise I'll kill the woman you love," and he does not dispute that, because at that point, so like the Doctor fell in love with Rose in World War III, whereas Rose, I think she probably falls in love with him around, I think, for me personally, it's parting the ways once she gets separated from the Doctor and he sends her home. I think that's when she realises.
One of my notes is just that Jackie really does just feel like a very British mum.
She does,
and it's kind of sweet to see her in that kind of. Not saying that Jackie hasn't been a mum, but she feels like a more protective mum to Rose at that age.
I guess kind of, but I mean we've rewatched what's the episode? Aliens in London fairly recently.
Oh, yeah.
And once Rose comes back after a year, she is so protective. Yeah. But no, I do get what you mean. You do kind of see a different side to her. Going back to that point you said about like the TARDIS and opening the doors to see there's nothing inside that, I find it so funny because that's how the TARDIS prop actually looks like on set. That is what it actually looks like when they're filming. When they get inside, it is that small, tiny wooden box. Except normally only one of the doors opens, not both of them. But
I completely forgot that happened in the episode, and when it happened, I was like,
yeah.
Oh God, wait, I forgot.
What was that other bit that I was going to say? Oh yeah, it was what I really liked was the comparison between what Jackie told Rose about their relationship between what it actually was like. because it kind of builds on that thing of once you've lost someone, you tend to only really remember the happy stuff, not the sad, because you only
Yeah.
really want to remember that stuff. You know, if Pete had, say, survived, I don't think those two would have been together by the time Rose was 19, as she is in this
Yeah.
series. And it's interesting how, again, this is a bit of a spoiler, but in the season finale of next series, when Jackie meets the alternate universe Pete, those two end up working well because of all of their experiences that they've had separately. Because, you know, Pete and Jackie of the parallel world didn't have a great relationship either. So I feel like those two ended up working in the end because they had to both grow up independently and mature better,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Speaking of the realms of fighting and not working well together, although this is slightly irrelevant, but you also see, I know in other episodes this has happened, but you also see the Doctor and Rose's first massive fight.
Yeah, this is the
Yeah.
first time the Doctor's been properly mad at Rose. Like, they've had disagreements, like in The End of the World, where Rose starts having a bit of a crisis and starts having a go at the Doctor because of it. But normally it's very much Rose that's the first one to get annoyed. This time it was the
Yeah.
Doctor.
But the thing is, though, and something that I noticed, that while Rose was going around the house and describing everything, he was still letting her talk and, like, waited until she was finished to be like, oi, hold on.
Yeah, I think maybe he's just kind of... I mean, he was definitely brooding a bit, but I think he was trying to
Yeah.
get his thoughts in gear to see how
Mm.
he would actually kind of
Cool
adjust,
out.
because at that point I don't think Rose realised how bad things had gotten
Yeah.
and what she'd done. Because again, she's 19, and I think a lot of people forget that. Because obviously Billie Piper now, she's like 30 something. She's in her late 30s. Yeah, I know. But back then, I mean, I think Billie Piper was about 20, 21 when she was filming it, and you know, Rose herself was 19. She is young, and people forget that, I think, because she doesn't look... Well, she does, but she doesn't at the same time. We're so used to seeing her in series 2 and 4 when she's a lot well-adjusted and a lot... I mean, sure, she's still selfish, and she's got that still got that selfish element to her, but she knows more about what she can and can't do. She's still kind of testing the limits and pushing things at the moment.
Yeah, that was one of the notes I had about Rose, just kind of at the beginning of the episode seeming quite selfish.
Yeah. I mean, Russell himself said that is probably one of the main points, is that he said that in The Writer's Tale that Rose is so brilliantly selfish and Martha is so brilliantly selfless, and then you've got Donna,
Yeah.
who's somewhat in the middle.
Yeah.
This is completely irrelevant, but it's relevant to the episode.
Yeah.
But there's this theme, again, we've already explored this, but there's a theme of obviously the people disappearing. But I had this really bad idea that it was mostly the people that were supposed to be at the wedding, because obviously most of them were gone.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably because the wedding is the centre of the problem. You know, that's where he's going to be. So, of course, most of the disappearances start off being there.
But you also have the fact that most of the father figures disappeared in other people's lives as well.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, there were a lot of other people that disappeared as well. I don't think it was just that.
But they specifically highlighted the guy who's supposed to get married's dad, who disappeared.
Yeah, the father
Yeah.
of the groom. That's true.
Can we, with little Mickey, just
Yeah.
immediately going straight to
Oh.
Rose?
He has
Like-
not changed at all.
No.
Oh, God.
Oh,
But I do feel sorry for him because, I mean, he's what, 6 at that
Yeah.
point, and he's like, and he's just, his mother's just disappeared. All of the other children in the playground just disappeared. But it's funny how he runs straight to Rose as if he kind of knows who she is
Yeah,
subconsciously.
because even, like, with Rose's dad, there was that thing where it was like, oh, I feel like I trust you and know you because I wouldn't have given you my car keys. or anything."
Exactly. Yeah.
On the note of them being little, again, this is irrelevant.
Mm.
But, so this is a very long stretch, so just hear me out.
Okay.
So the part we see where loads of kids and adults get taken looks the same one from a mini webisode. I think it's webisode.
Is this what about Clara?
Yeah.
I think that's probably. I don't think it's the same park.
Okay.
It definitely isn't, because the other one's more grassy, and it's in a wider space.
It was
Yeah.
just a theory. I didn't
Okay,
remember what
fair
each
enough.
looked like. And I was like, they're in London somewhere.
Something.
Are they? I don't think they
Or
are.
they're in like a town.
I think they're supposed to be like near Blackpool or something, because I'm pretty sure. Well, I know that's where Jenna Coleman grew up, but I'm pretty sure that's where Clara grew up for a while as well. Anyway,
Something that always ended up giving me a jump scare is just the noise when it cuts to like the eyes of the demons. It's
Reap-
just like that.
Reapers, yeah.
Where it's just that like intense noise, and it's like, Jesus, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah. I think the CGI on the Reapers, not amazing, not
Yeah.
terrible, but I thought that the kind of but it's more the actual POV shots of the Reapers looking down that I thought were worse, because you could clearly tell they'd put a red filter over a drone shot.
Yeah.
Like,
You do kind of notice though, and I realized this like when I was watching the next episode, that there's quite a few point of view shots from the monsters, and I kind of like that. But God, the music that just suddenly starts blaring.
yeah, I think we'll talk about this next episode, but I think the Empty Child Dog dances, they use the POV shots so much better.
Yeah.
But I think
Definitely.
I think it's the red that really gets, because they've got
Mm.
red eyes, so they put the red filter over. I'm like, would they really be seeing like that? I mean, I don't know, but
Not as intense for red, probably. Maybe like a dullish red, like if you put red sunglasses on or something.
yeah,
I was gonna say it had symbolism of danger.
yeah, that's true. Although again, next episode they add in the fact that red is the color of danger purely for Earth. Everywhere else is mauve. Although I do find it funny, because at some point in this series, the Doctor definitely has a mauve jumper on in a couple of the episodes. He doesn't in this one. He's got a green jumper, I think, and he's
Yeah.
got a red one, a couple of them, but one of them is definitely mauve.
Oh God, it was really weird to see the Doctor
Yeah.
without his jacket.
'Cause
For that second, I was like, I am uncomfortable.
I know, because
Why?
it's like seeing 13 outside of a coat.
Yeah.
But also, I remember seeing a photo of Aliens in London. I keep mentioning that episode, but it's a behind the scenes photo with Rose and the Doctor on that wall before the spaceship flies over, and it's he's not got his jacket on there either, and it's so odd, because he's just wearing this black top, and it's just so weird. Anyway, you were gonna say something? Okay,
No.
I was
Although
yeah.
there was a mistake that I noticed when Rose
Okay.
ran to his side when he died the actual last time.
Yeah.
On one of the shots, this first shot where you can see her running towards him, you can see the guy standing next to the car that hit him with.
Yeah.
But then in the next shot, when you've got a side angle shot and you're supposed to see the guy's legs, you
Hmm.
can't. He's not there.
Okay.
So it's a continuity error.
Mm.
Unless he like ran out, but then they said that he was by his side the whole time. Like I know Rose was as well, but the driver.
No, I think she said that he waited for the police, not that he was
Yeah.
directly next to him.
Like I think on the saddest well, the whole episode is sad, but a moment that I found sad purely because of relatability was when she kind of started to find out what type of person her dad really was. Because usually you grow up and it's like, oh, dad's a hero, he's a businessman, and then you start to see everything for what it really is, and it's like, oh gosh.
Yeah. Have you got anything else, Jasmine? Because I've run out of points.
For me, the saddest part was when Pete realised that he was supposed to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think he was a bit in denial at first, because I think he realised it before he actually says it out loud, even before she starts listing it, when he's like, oh, have I gone grey? And I think it's then he starts to realise, but he's like, no, I can't be dead. I can't be dead, you know?
Because he said, like, I've never done any, I wouldn't have done those things, that's not me. And it's like, oh no, he's starting to realise.
Yeah, but at least he's self-aware of it.
Yeah.
You know, like he's not like, oh yeah, I'm such a great person. Like, he is aware that he's a shitty husband and
Yeah.
would have been a shitty dad, most likely.
I think as well when Rose realized that her dad had to die because like she'd just seen the doctor die and other people die, and she just kind of, I guess, in that moment where he was finally like to Jackie, this is our Rose, and kind of that look Rose had was like a realization of, oh my god, I know what he's about to do.
Yeah.
I like the repetition in that episode where they repeated the car going round and round.
Yeah, it's a good bit of, I guess, foreshadowing for what the solution is. Like, I like when episodes actually show the solution before they get there. They did it in The Unquiet Dead with the gas. They do it in next episode, which we'll come to next time.
I think as well it's a good symbolism for the loomingness of death. It's kind of something that no matter how hard you try, you can't escape, and it will keep trying to come for you, because it almost crashed into them when they were in the car.
Exactly. It's interesting that the doctor doesn't say that Pete's death is a fixed point, though. So you could almost argue that if Rose had run out and saved him the first time when she'd frozen, that nothing would have happened, and life probably would have gone on as it was, because it seems to be the problem was that she ran past the previous versions themselves, not that she saved his life necessarily.
I feel like there's the possibility that if her dad was still alive, maybe she wouldn't have wanted to have gone with the doctor, or there'd be a lot more different reasons if she did that could end up causing like bad things to happen.
That's true, because they do specifically say at the start in that episode, oh, you didn't say anything when I said space travel, but when I said time, you jumped on it. So there is a theoretically that even though she says that she didn't think about that, maybe it was subconscious, maybe she's lying.
Maybe. I mean, there was kind of a sweet moment when Doctor was talking to Baby Rose, just like, you're gonna be a pain in my ass in the future.
So sweet. And it's just it's hilarious that he makes that comment of Jackie trusting him with Rose, because she literally has not done that before or since. Is that everything?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's about it for today. How would you rate this episode?
I would rate it an 8.5 out of 10, which is the highest I've ever rated any episode so far.
I know you've been so stingy with your rating. Literally, I don't think she's rated anything above a 6. So
really?
No. She did rate Aliens in London World War 3 as a 7, but everything else was a 6 or below.
I gave it like an 8 as well.
I gave it a 7.5.
Personally, at the moment, so far, I think it's the best in that season.
I'm definitely disagreeing with you. Dalek is better. Dalek is better.
Empty child for me.
Well, that's next episode. But Dalek is better. It is. Or at least level in the fact that they both give a lot of character development to the two main characters.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's everything today. Thank you for listening. I hope you'll see you next time when we review The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances.